All right, everybody, look what I got here today. I got my buddy Peter Tanella here to I convinced him to come on here to chat with us a little bit. This industry is awesome. You guys probably already know that. What makes this industry awesome is just great people. And I love meeting and having conversations and spending time with great people. And Peter is definitely one of those guys on the top of my list here. You might remember him because he came on episode 169 of the Overdog podcast to talk to us about all things legal. But I'm not even going to get into all that. We're going to have a quick conversation today because I know you've got some good things to share with us. But just for people who maybe didn't catch that episode or aren't familiar with you, Peter, tell people who you are.
Hey, thanks, Fern. Appreciate the warm introduction. It's always good to see you again. Yeah, I'm a business attorney. I'm at Mandelbaum Barrett. We're a full service law firm, and we represent our clients in all facets of a pet boarding and daycare facilities. Whether you're going to start up, whether you're buying, whether you're running, whether you're exiting, we handle all the different issues on a day-to-day basis for our clients.
Yes, and awesome. And we met, I think, I don't know how long ago, a year or two ago, at one of the conferences, and realized we live very close to each other. So we make sure we're hooking up for lunch as often as we can. Not as often as we should, but as often as we our schedules can allow. Um,
Yeah. It's definitely a small world, and it's great when we found out. I mean, we live 10 minutes from each other. Who would have thought that, right?
yeah, we had to go to Hershey to figure that out.
Yes.
But yeah, so the reason
Yeah.
I invited you on here today, and because you have such a good, I think, viewpoint and knowledge base that most people in the pet industry don't think about, they don't utilize until it is way late. And at that point, there's lots of trouble, struggles, a lot of things that could be easily avoided if we just weren't thinking ahead of time and being proactive instead of reactive. So that's what I love about what you do is you're helping people really stay fortified and creating the best business that they can from a legal perspective. So I think in the beginning, I think you were mentioning before we started here, like, as you start a business, you need to have your team in place, and that is all the different variables to make your business a success. And I think a lot of pet resorts, they're sometimes lacking that because it's just they're just doing it themselves and they're doing
Right.
everything. They're trying to wear all these different hats that they might not be qualified to actually wear. I noticed this myself when I tried to do my own bookkeeping. Huge mistake. I am not good with numbers. It's not my forte. I screwed things up pretty massively. So I had to realize I should find someone who's actually good at that and knows what they're doing. And I don't know what I don't know. So and that isn't true of so many different areas of the business. Accounting, marketing. I would say the same thing. That's why I think people eventually come to me and Overdog is they realize they've been trying to do marketing and it's something they don't understand. But I think the last thing people think about is the legalities of this. I mean, this is a business you're building. You're trying to create something that's going to be not only awesome, but that's going to be stress-free and work. So if you don't mind, I would love to
Yeah.
chat with you and pick your brain a little bit about what are some of the legal concerns and things people should be thinking about that you've seen from every life cycle of the pet industry. So let's start at the beginning. Okay, someone who's maybe thinking about starting a business or, maybe in the very beginning processes, what do people need to be thinking about?
Yeah, Fern, just before I touch on that, you said something before that's key. You like took the words out of my mouth. Being proactive as opposed to reactive. As a business attorney, that's our goal. You want to be proactive. You want to, as opposed to reacting to a problem, you want to be able to solve, the problem as you're going along. And I can't emphasize, I always lead with the team. Your lawyer, your accountant, you're going to start or buy a business, your lender, maybe a financial advisor, your insurance agent, a consultant. That's your team, your essential team. And as a business owner, whether you're running, a pet boarding business or you're running a widget factory, you should have your team around you just from my experience as I get older now, which I hate to admit, you see those are the ones who are more successful. So, if you're going to be looking, to start up uh, a business, the first thing you want to be looking at doing your market research. Where are you going to do it? And have a business plan. Who are you going to do your business plan with? Most likely your accountant. Have that in place because you're going to need the location for the market research, your plan, and your business plan in place because in order for you to go start up that operation, you're going to need money. And when you go to your lender, they're going to say, well, where are you looking to go? Do you have a business plan? You want to have those things in place when you're going to speak with your lender. Select your location, and you want to make sure that the location that you want to operate your business at, whether or not it's a permitted use in that location. The last thing you want to do is spend time and money and fall in love with a location like it's human nature for us to do, and only to find out that, oh, I can't do it there, right? How it stinks. So you want to do that. And then once you have your location, you're getting your finance in line. Okay, what type of business are you going to form in order to start that business? Is it going to be a limited liability company? How is it going to be taxed? And these are just all basic 101 things. Or, business owners like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to be doing here? But when your team in place, all this is every day that you can handle, and you should be focusing on what you're doing best, running your business, right? As opposed to sitting there, like you said, doing your bookkeeping, to trying to do your accounting, having your team in place. And then once you have your location, if you're going to be starting it up and you're either going to be buying the building or you're going to be entering into a lease and working your way through the process, either one of those. Um, and then hopefully, it's successful and you have a ribbon cutting and you're opening up your business. That's a pretty straight, streamlined approach to starting one up, right?
Yeah, now one thing that you mentioned, I think when we had another conversation outside of this call, but I think it's very important because I see a lot of people struggling with this when it's too late. And that is, all right, so you're opening a business and you may not be doing it on your own. Maybe you're bringing in a partner or two. Um, it's really important to define that relationship. I remember you telling me how important it is to kind of define the relationship, what the everybody's role is in it, and also what happens if it doesn't work out. Can you touch on that a little bit? Like if someone's going to
Yeah.
start, but they're going to have partners, what do they need to think about?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. What I was describing is, if you or I are going to go, going solo, we're going at it. Then you have a partner involved, you know, it's like walking and chewing gum. You're doing all those things I described, but simultaneously, you're having a conversation with your partner. And what is that relationship going to look like? And I always tell clients, it's no different than you and I with, in your personal life, when you're living with somebody. You want to set expectations and boundaries up front. So going into that partnership, who's going to be responsible for the day-to-day operation of the business? Are you both going to do it? Or is one person going to do it? How are major decisions going to be made? Filing your taxes, borrowing money, um, buying equipment, things of that nature. No, how are you going to do that? Are you both going to make those decisions? And then if you're 50-50, what happens if the two of you can't agree on something? You want to set those parameters in the agreement. You want to spend time and money on that partnership agreement. So in the event that you break up, you can take that agreement out and say, hey, when we were working together and things were going good, this is the roadmap into our business, and this is the roadmap out to our business. It's fair and it's equitable. I find that when people don't have that, and if something goes wrong, then you spend unnecessarily a lot of time and money on a lawyer. Where if you have, it's almost like a prenup agreement, but
Yeah.
just on the business side, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember when you first told me that, and I was because I could already think of businesses that have really struggled because that part of it was not thought about, and it ended badly, and then it was a total mess afterwards.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and it's a shame, and it doesn't need to be a total mess. Listen, think about it. Think about it. You're already if the relationship is going to split, you guys, there's already some natural tension there. But if there's no rules or no agreement there, it's even going to, and then you get lawyers involved, it's even going to raise those tensions. So when you guys are excited about your business venture, you sit down with somebody who understands, know how to put an agreement in place. And my job is to ask questions. So what do you guys want to do? And we kind of walk them through it, and then they tell us what they want. It's like a blank canvas. They tell us what they want, what picture they want to paint, and it's our job to paint the picture, give it back to them, say, hey, this is what you guys want. This is going to work great for you. And if it doesn't work out, look what happens. And you can spell it out right there. You can even have a valuation set forth in that in the agreement. So at 2 years, 3 years from now, after the business is doing well, you can look to the agreement and there's a mechanism in there to value the business. So if somebody wants to leave, they can exit and be paid fairly. And then that alleviates that human feeling like, oh, I'm overpaying or I'm not getting paid enough. It's already set forth in the agreement.
Yeah, I do see that a lot where, they go and things change. So you go in, all partners are all in and whatever, and then over a period of time, the changes in life or whatever priorities, one partner is like, you know what, this isn't for me and I want to get out, but then how do I get out? Like what happens at
Yeah.
that point? So, and I remember you telling me it's so important to do that when everyone likes each other. When
Yeah.
everyone is like level-headed, you can both make sure or you're taking care of yourself, but also the other person because you're everything's good at that point.
Right. And also too, I was on the phone yesterday with some clients. Um, Nobody wants to talk about death or total disability. But we're all adults, and even in my family, we put our will in place. We don't want to do it, but as the business owner, you fortunately you're building an asset. And you want your family to be able to benefit from that asset. Maybe pet boarding or doggy daycare business owners don't think like that, but they should. You're spending time and money on a business and you're building an asset. So God forbid you're working, your full-time efforts are in that business and you become totally disabled. What happens there? How does money come into the business or your family? And or if you have a partner who's relying upon you, how do you deal with that? That agreement can deal with that. Or if you die and you have a partner, your partner probably gets along with your partner, your personal partner or your spouse, but they probably don't want to be partners with that person. They want to be partners with you, but you're no longer around. How does that work? And again, it all can be spelled out in that agreement. And it's not overly complicated. It's a roadmap for success, the way I look at it.
Yeah, and like what they say is you expect the best, but plan for the worst, and
Yeah.
if you're prepared, then you're proactive and then you're not scrambling and doing things kind of desperately in the moment. So I think it's so important. So yeah, I'm glad you shared all that. Now, how about for businesses that are running? We've opened, they're grinding away, moving the business forward. What are some things that they need to think? I can think of one thing off the top of my head because I have a bunch of clients that have problems with this is staff issues
Yeah.
where staff is, maybe a disgruntled staff member is now leaving and now like maybe suing or like are there anything we can do to protect against that or like what has to happen when we're running the business?
Yeah, and staff is probably the number one. Staffing issues are the number one issues that we deal with our ongoing businesses. So we regularly get, calls, email, texts from clients all over the country with staffing issues. And as any business owner knows, when you have a staff member who maybe has gone sideways with you, depending on how sideways they go, it's urgent. So you got to act quickly in that sense. I think the first thing, when you're going into the business is, what your leadership skills are going to be like. And if you don't have them, get training on it or be working with somebody to help out your leadership skills and what type of culture you're going to build in that business. Because we find the ones that have, clear, clear, leadership skills and clear expectations have built a great culture in their business. Those are the ones who are going to have less issues with
Yeah.
employees and communication skills. You should have it in an employee handbook. People are like, what's that? Oh, it's something I get from ADP. I always look at the employee handbook. I always make the analogy to the Super Bowl. Um, I know I have, like you, having daughters at home. I don't watch football as much as I used to, but I tend to at Super Bowl, I want to watch the game with friends and family. Can you imagine us all watching the Super Bowl and there's no rules in place and everybody's just running into each other, whatever. The game wouldn't be fun. So now you have a business. There's no rules. There's no expectations in place. Nobody knows what to expect. That handbook is a great communication device between the employer and the employee. You know, what's the expectation that you have for your employees? So, and they're clear. And it can change, but I should give it to them and they understand what their expectations, the hours they're going to work, what policies that you have in place. These are all part things that are running a good business should have. So then the employees can be their best self. Oh, if I do this, I know what to expect. If I don't do this, I know what the ramifications are. And then when you running a business, you have an open door policy. So if somebody hears about something, they should be able to come to you and say, listen, this is not working, or I heard this, without no fear of some type of ramification or result of that. So I find businesses that are proactive in that sense, ongoing businesses are going to have less issues on a going forward basis. And then the one other thing too, what we're seeing too is key employees. Is there some type of compensation or bonus structure that you want to have with some key employees? We're seeing that more and more, especially we're all talking, no matter what industry you have, staffing issues or staffing shortages. So if you have somebody who's a key person, is there some type of bonus or some type of structure that you want in place? Maybe entice him or her to stay with you, or even to go along for the ride with you in your business. You can structure things like that.
Yeah, it's so important to have that spelled out so you're not just making it up as you go along because in the what happens is in the busy day-to-day stuff, all that stuff falls through the cracks and then you lose your best performer because you didn't have any system in place to keep them
Yeah.
happy and that's kind of a big thing again going into the proactive way to run a business. Last phase is when people are looking to exit their business. What do they need to do at that point?
Yeah, I think the exiting the component again is something that gets lost, failing to plan. A lot of this stuff's not even on the legal side. It's more just running the business. But as a business lawyer, things that I see. So what do I mean by failing to plan? You know, uh, if you're looking to sell or you're thinking about it, when do you want to plan to do it? You should, as a business owner, you should be running your business as if you're looking to sell it within the next 6 months. If you run it like that, then at any time when you do look to go sell it, you're going to be prepared. So your books and records are all in order. You have all your legal documents in order. And then you're planning to go, you're in that planning phase. A lot of times too, when you sell your business, the buyer may want you to stick around for a period of time to help transfer the goodwill of your business. So the last thing you want to be doing is saying, oh, I'm ready to sell. I can't, I want to get out of here and stop doing this. Well, you should expect that you may have to stick around for a period of time in order to successfully transfer the goodwill of your business. So failing to plan, rushing into negotiations, and then once you find a buyer and you delay the negotiations. I always say to sellers, once you're emotionally ready to sell and you've locked in, okay, I'm going to do this, and then you've gone out, you've targeted a buyer, you've entered into those negotiations. The last thing you want to do as a seller is delay because time is the biggest thing that kills deals. So once you have that buyer and that buyer's ready, because the buyer's on time frames too. They're borrowing money probably. The bank's giving them a time frame. You want to move that deal. You don't want to be the reason that that deal doesn't go forward because you're delaying things. Um, and then the last thing I would say to sellers too is I usually say it at the very beginning. There's going to come a point in the transaction that most likely you're going to be fatigued. What do I mean by that? I have a client who's closing on a sale on April 7th, and we're getting to the point today where we're almost done with all the documents. And it's a husband and wife, and they're struggling, because it's a lot of moving pieces, while at the same time you're running your business, while at the same time, you have a family and you're dealing with personal issues. So, like you said in the beginning, you're juggling, you're wearing a lot of hats. Um, you want to be prepared and you want to have your team in place. And I think if you do those things, you're going to be successful, whether you're starting, whether you're buying, running, or exiting. I think it's all about planning.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think that's what all of us crazy entrepreneurs like myself who start out as a solopreneur and we realize very quickly that, oh my God, I need a team. I need help. And it's so much easier and better once you have that.
Yeah.
So it's like liberating almost of how much that takes a lot of the pressure off. So Peter, thank you for all this information. This was awesome. Maybe real quick before you go, just tell some people the kind of things that you do and how people can reach out if they need some help with all this stuff.
Yeah, so Fern, and thank you again for giving me the opportunity. We can be we're located at www.mblawfirm.com. You can always email me at ptanella@mblawfirm.com. And I'll leave it at this. We talked about starting, buying, selling, running. You know, the way we built our team is a 360-degree platform. Like, what is that? You have startups, acquisitions, expansions, developments, real estate transaction, leasing, construction law, exit strategy planning. We even work with clients on trademarks and brand management, partnership agreements, live employment law counseling. We really, the full life cycle of a business owner, that's the way we've built our team and our platform. So no matter where you are in your stage, we can come in and we can help you and work with you.
Yeah, and you guys know by now, the two big things that I love is good people and good
Yeah,
businesses, and also that have expertise in this industry. And
yeah.
that's why I love what you're doing, Peter, because you're able to help us out. Just besides being good at what you do and being a good guy, you know the field and you know what's going on, so you can understand and relate. So it's great. So thank you for stopping in and sharing all that information. I'm sure we'll see you again very soon.
Thanks, Fern.